Arnav, I'd also like to come
One second. General Malik has the right to respond. General Malik is responding to General Dhar. I give him the right to respond. Go ahead, General Malik. Go on.
You know, I heard General Dhar, but I hope he's not pointing fingers. He's talking about this particular incident, and I don't think he should club all the previous chiefs into such a thing, because so far I have never heard a story where an army chief has been offered a bribe, frankly. Nobody came near me on such issues.
I take your point. I think General Dhar is also taking your point. But the question is tonight, here is a chief who has been trying to rid the army of corrupt elements. When he rakes up an issue of corruption, the same system turns back on him. Now let me argue from the other side. The same system turns back on him and says, you explain first what you did. Could the army chief have acted? General Bakshi,
can you ask them to?
Could the army chief have acted a little bit more? He has compromised his position by keeping quiet for so long. I want your response to General Dhar in Jammu. Go ahead, General Bakshi.
Look, Arnab, a number of us who have been watching this very sordid drama for a very long time have been praying and wishing that it would finally come to an end, to a conclusion, to a closure. Every time we find it is, reaching that denouement, there comes a sputter of media leaks and counter leaks, and this war will sort of, go on. I think it is time to look ahead. Please, the army is not a sacred holy cow. If there is something wrong with the army, it needs to be set right. We army men would not like it pushed under the carpet. We would like it to be aired as much as possible. Let me say this as an army man, as a veteran, and I'm sure everybody here will agree. The point at issue is, for God's sake, understand why we veterans are feeling so concerned. Little knowledge is a very dangerous thing, but for those who know, it worries.
General Bakshi,
acquisition process
General
is going at a crawling pace.
General Bakshi,
25 to 30
General
years
Bakshi,
it
I take your point.
induct a piece of
I take your point.
The buffers in 87, thereafter,
sir,
we haven't had another gun.
Sir, I have a simple question. I have a very simple question for you and Maruf.
This process, and instead, one would have thought.
Sir, I have a simple question for you and Maruf. I have a simple question for you and Maruf.
We would have thought that all this slowing down was because of the checks, because of the stringent action to stop corruption.
I have a simple...
Corruption is getting brazen.
Sir,
as the army chief said, he was never dared, nobody dared offer him a bribe. Sir, Today that stage has come.
Well, the stage came 1.5 years back.
I think we need to look ahead and not look back.
1 second, sir. I have a simple question. You're all talking long term. I'm talking immediate. I'm talking now. My question to GD Bakshi and to Maruf Raza and to General Malik is simple. And because I think all three of you are defending the army chief. The question is, can either of you tell me, this information is sitting with the army chief for 1.5 years. I spoke to Tejinder Singh. I'm not saying Tejinder Singh is the person who offered the bribe, but people are talking. This information has been sitting with the chief of army staff for 1.5 years. For 1.5 years, the government did nothing. The government did nothing. The chief also did nothing. The government did nothing, but the army chief also did nothing. Now when he loses the case and the equation gets soured, when a news story that goes against you in the media comes out, you issue a press release, you point fingers at someone. 1.5 months left to your retirement and you throw this. You throw this bomb that you have held with you. People of India will ask you, where was the conscience? Where was the conscience for the 1.5 years when you sat on this bit of information? Can you?
Arnab, I have to agree.
Yeah,
I have to leave.
Can I add a little perspective to this? First, the first point to understand is that General V.K. Singh, even before he became Army Chief as Eastern Army Commander, had initiated an inquiry into a corruption scandal. We all know about the Sukna scandal. General V.K. Singh has made it known in his few press interviews, more recently today's Hindu coverage, that he has been trying to fight these institutionalized bodies within the system who have been existing in one way or the other for a long time.
So why did you coexist?
And he's been putting the brakes on to ensure that, no more of it carries on. General Malik rightly made a point that the particular equipment could have been banned. But, if you ban that equipment or the manufacturer, you then can't send away the 7,000 vehicles which have been in existence in the army for 30 years. I myself sat in a Kolos Tatra vehicle when I was in service. So it's been around for donkey's years. So as far as, banning it, fine, the next lot won't come in, but there are already 7,000 there. I think the bigger point we need to understand is three. One, army men as a rule are limited by Army Rule 21, that is to go to press, and more importantly, they are not as aggressively articulate as perhaps you and me are on television and other things, so they take a long time to respond to such kind
General
of things
Dhar,
in the media. The second point to understand
General
is...
Dhar, Air Marshal Ahluwalia, you buy that argument? One sec, Maruf.
This desire that why should the army... Arnab, there's desire that why should the army chief go to press? Why should... I mean, the world has moved on, Arnab. The world has moved on. We are living in the 21st
Yeah, but the world moved on 1 year back as well.
The army chief cannot be operating by rules that were established in the 19th century.
Maruf, the world moved on 1.5 years back.
Arnab.
1.5 years back, the army chief had the option of going to the media.
It's not. How do you know, Arnab? How do you know it's 1.5 years old? Arnab, how do you know?
The army chief has to tell us when this meeting happened. That is exactly the point. There isn't enough transparency about it.
That means there is a lot more. There is a lot more on this story that needs to come out. The date, the specifics, and one channel is saying that there is a recording available. So let's see how the story unfolds in the next 2-3 days. The key question to understand is, don't keep putting the army on a pedestal and say the army shouldn't be doing this. Other officers can go to court. The army chief can't. Isn't he a citizen of the country?
General Dhar, question put out. It's eventually.
I would also like to
Emma, let's hear the other side.
One aspect. I would also like to clarify one aspect. As per the media reports, the entire problem is in the costing primarily of this vehicle. You can buy it off the market for 40 lakhs. It is being sold to the army for 1 crore.
So why did the army
chief... For God's
chief...
sake, the chief has to speak up on that.
No, why did the army chief...
He has just spoken that. What harm has he done?
Sir, tell me,
why should it be made into such a cause celebrate? He just told you that for God's sake, I can buy more equipment.
Sir, I agree.
In that 60 lakhs per vehicle.
I agree with you. It's a very important matter. But then, why do you wait till 7 weeks before your retirement to raise this very important matter? You could have acted right there and then if you felt that there are 7,000 substandard vehicles being sold at exorbitant rates to the government.
The Bofors gun has been coming for 27 years. Don't put all the blame on the office of this present chief. I know he's under fire. Okay. But don't put all the blame for the last 27 years on the office of this chief. What about the air defense guns? What about the army aviation helicopters? For 30 years we haven't gotten them dashes.
Here, General Bakshi says we should actually be grateful for the army chief for being a whistleblower. The chief of the Indian army today is a whistleblower. And you are putting him in the dock, General Dhar. You're not being fair on this man who's sticking his neck out.
I am not putting him in the dock. I am putting the entire system, which is working at the moment, in the dock for not preventing the rot that is coming in. You're getting useless vehicles. We have the 3-ton which is being produced in this country is better unless you want something else. But what about the guns? What about other things? Has anybody asked for it? We are in a bad state. The equipment is in a bad state.
Yeah, but Air Marshal Ahluwalia raised his hand. Air Marshal Ahluwalia.
Yeah.
Air Marshal.
I think, we seem to be debating as if we're sitting in a drill square or something like that. But I'd just like to make 1 or 2 points. Basically, it is not person A or B or C's fault in this whole thing. What has happened is that something that happened 1.5 years ago, there should have been a reaction from the Ministry of Defense, from the Army headquarters, etc., etc. I'd like to make a point that there is no disassociation between the Army headquarters, the Chief of the Army Staff, MOD and the Defense Minister. It's all one. It's an integrated services headquarters. Now the question is that, just like you said, 1.5 years, a lot of water might have flown, a lot of other things might have happened, and the same person who should have been put behind bars 1.5 years ago might have been up to some other monkey tricks by now. So therefore, it is a question that from all sides there's been a foul-up.
Okay.
But I'd like to clarify that this is a one-off case.
I hope
This
so.
does not mean that the rest of the army and the armed forces are to blame for such incidents to happen.
I hope so.
I don't think we need to highlight it to that extent,
Right.
but certainly we need to highlight that some proper action, some scrutiny should have taken place 1.5 years ago and not let so much of time pass.
That's true. We can't highlight it, but
I
we
must
can't
qualify that it does not reflect on the honesty and the integrity in the armed forces.
It certainly doesn't.
There are a lot of people who are very true to the job, and this does not happen like an everyday episode.
We can't highlight it.
A one-off case, and people must be penalized.
Marshal Ahluwalia,
and before politics gets into it, before the CBI gets into it and finds many other reasons
only one thing to
for
it.
this whole situation.
Yeah, go on.
Sir, I want to add one thing
I think
to
that
it.
is the way we have to look at this whole
I got your point.
And I think it will do us good not to let politics get into it.
So we
it will
can't
do us good to make sure that we do not continue
but
with this
there
kind
was
of
a time-
situation wherein the morale of the armed forces, not only the army, the armed forces in general, will go down.
Sir, when there is an allegation so big, like in Sukna, I'm sorry, but the argument of morale of the armed forces cannot be a reason to play this down. This will get played up because in India 2012, the argument, the morale of the army is close to us as well, sir, in the media. We support the army, we back the army, we are proud of the army when it matters. But when it's a question of alleged corruption, you can't use the morale of the army argument to play down the story. Yes, quick last words here. General Dhar from Jammu.
Sir, my only one thing is that is somebody waiting in the whole thing that this officer or anybody who has made a complaint should complete 3 years so that he can't be brought under Army Act.
Okay.
Why can't he be acted against now?
Maruf, go on.
I just want to make one last point, and this is a point which comes up again and again on debates like this. Please understand that the men we command in the armed forces judge each individual officer on his caliber and his merit. And there is nothing that remains hidden about you. It gets known to your men. So if an odd, bad apple is there, it doesn't spoil the rest of the cart. There are bad apples, but it has nothing in the long run substantially to do with the morale of India's armed forces. Our men remain perhaps the best fighting machine in the world, and with the odd person here and there who can be pointed fingers on, it's not going to dent our ability to give the enemy a really tough show.
Maruf Raza, to all my other panelists, General Bakshi, General Dhar, Marshal Ahluwalia, we're not going to play up or play down the story, but we'll follow the story. Thank you for joining me on News Hour Debate.